I pulled into the driveway, the same one I used to back into with Peggy all those years ago. The old oak tree by the porch seemed to be leaning just a little more now, like it too was weighed down by the memories this house held. It wasn't just a house anymore, it was a symbol of everything I had lost. I didn't want to be here, I didn't want to see her, but I had no choice. The court had given me one last shot to get my things, and I wasn't going to let Peggy take anything more from me. I killed the engine, sat in the car for a moment, staring at the front door, as if it might open on its own. Finally, I grabbed the box from the passenger seat, slammed the door, and walked up the porch steps. As I reached for the handle, the door swung open. "Jim," Peggy said, her voice almost too soft. "I didn't think you'd come." I tried to smile, but it felt foreign. The warmth in her eyes didn't reach me. It never really had. "I'm here for my stuff, Peggy." That's it. My voice came out flat, colder than I intended, but the anger that had been simmering for months, hell, for years, was bubbling to the surface. She didn't step aside. Instead, she leaned against the doorframe, her arms crossed. I thought we could talk. I thought maybe, just maybe, you'd want to come back." I froze. My mind reeled. Come back? After everything? After the restraining order? After the way she destroyed everything between us? The nerve. I felt the tightness in my chest, the knot of resentment, the raw pain that I hadn't been able to shake. "You're joking, right?" My voice was tight now, harder than before. "You think after everything you put me through I'd come back?" She flinched just a little. "Jim, I'm sorry. I never meant for it to go this way." I almost laughed, but it came out as a bitter snarl. "You're sorry?" "Sorry doesn't fix the years of lies, Peggy. Sorry doesn't take back the damage you did to me." She flinched again, her eyes darting to the ground, but she didn't back down. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I was lost. And then Barry came along and—" "Barry? Really?" I cut her off, my anger turning to fire. "You're going to bring him into this? He's the reason we're here, Peggy. He's the reason everything fell apart." She sighed, her shoulders slumping. "It's not all his fault. Not all his fault?" I snapped, stepping closer. "He's the one you ran to, the one you left me for. Don't pretend you didn't make that choice. You lied to me, Peggy, over and over. You told me I was the one who wasn't enough, that you needed more. You left me and now you think you can just— what? Invite me back into your life? Like nothing ever happened?" Her face was flushed now, her hands shaking as she tried to steady herself. "I never wanted to hurt you, but I thought you'd be happier without me. You don't know how hard it was for me to live with myself. Don't." I held up a hand, cutting her off. "Don't try to pull that 'I'm the victim' card now. Not after everything. I was the one who got left behind, Peggy. I was the one who had to pick up the pieces after you decided your happiness was more important than mine. You think I didn't see how you looked at me, how you treated me like I was some sort of burden? Well, you were right about one thing. You're better off without me, because I'm done." She stepped back, her hand trembling as she reached for the door. "Jim, please. No, don't even try." I turned and started walking toward the driveway, my heart pounding in my chest. "I gave you everything. I gave you my trust, my loyalty, my love, and you destroyed it. So don't expect me to come back. Not now, not ever." I didn't wait for her to respond. I couldn't. I couldn't stand to hear the excuses anymore. As I reached the car, I threw the box into the trunk and slammed the door. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I stepped into the living room, carrying the box of my things like it was some sort of burden. My eyes scanned the room for Peggy, but instead, they landed on him. Barry, the man who had taken everything from me, my wife, my home, my future. He was sitting on the couch, eyes glued to his phone, like he was waiting for the next thing to happen. His presence felt like a slap. I wasn't ready for this. But here I was, about to face the man who had so carelessly become a part of the wreckage I'd been left to clean up. "Jim," Peggy said from the doorway, her voice too soft. "Barry's here. I don't care what you two were doing." I cut her off. My eyes didn't leave Barry. He looked up slowly, his expression stiff, as if he had no idea how to act. "So, this is it. This is where you two are now, huh?" Barry shifted in his seat, trying to make himself seem more approachable. "Jim, I know this is complicated, but I don't want any bad blood between us." I let out a humorless laugh. "Bad blood? You don't get it, do you? You took my life from me. You took my wife. You took my home. And now you're sitting here acting like we can just talk this out? He flinched but held his ground. I never wanted to hurt you, man. I didn't come between you two. It just happened. I clenched my fists, trying to steady my breathing. He was trying to act all sincere, but it only made my blood boil. He had the audacity to look remorseful when, in reality, he had no idea how deep the betrayal ran. I lost my house because of you. I lost my family. Do you even know what that feels like, Barry? Do you know what it's like to have everything you thought was yours just disappear? Do you? My voice rose with every word, the weight of everything I had kept buried for so long finally crashing to the surface. Barry's eyes flickered with something, maybe regret, maybe guilt, but there was also that air of defensiveness. He wasn't going to admit to being wrong, not now, not in front of me. I get it, Jim, I do. I made mistakes and I'm sorry for that, he said, his voice slow, like he was trying to calm me down. But I never meant for it to go down like this. Never meant for it? Oh, please, I shot back, stepping closer, my fists clenched at my sides. You knew exactly what you were doing. You didn't just waltz into my life and take what was mine. You made a choice, just like Peggy did. But you... I pointed at him with my chin, my eyes narrowing. You knew what I was to her. We were brothers once, you and me. We served together. We had each other's backs. And you betrayed me in the worst way possible. His face faltered. I could see the shame creeping into his features, but it didn't matter. It didn't change what he had done. I never meant to hurt you like that, Jim. It just happened. We connected and I didn't know what else to do. I wasn't trying to replace you. Yeah, you weren't trying to replace me, I spat. But you did. You stepped into my place like I was some fool. I gave you my trust. I gave you my loyalty. I fought beside you. And this is how you repay me? Barry opened his mouth to speak, but I wasn't done. I had to say this. I had to get it all out, no matter how much it hurt. I thought we were brothers. I thought I could count on you, but you were just like the rest of them. You didn't care about me, not really. You wanted what I had. And when you got it, you threw me aside. I could see him struggling with his words, but I wasn't going to let him off the hook, not after everything. I leaned in, voice low and dangerous. You know what, Barry? I sneered. You might have been my brother in arms once, but now, you're nothing but a reminder of everything I lost. There was silence in the room, thick and suffocating. Barry's eyes fell to the floor, his shoulders slumping. But it wasn't enough. He wasn't going to get away with this just by looking sorry. I wasn't done yet. Do you think Peggy would have left me if you hadn't been there? I asked, my words biting. You think she would have just waltzed off without you? She couldn't wait to be with you, could she? Barry looked up, his face flushing, but he didn't answer. He couldn't. I was married to her, man. I loved her, and you just took that from me. I stepped back, turning to Peggy. And you knew what you were doing too. Don't stand there like you didn't make a choice. You picked him over me, and I'm done pretending it doesn't hurt. I'm done pretending it wasn't a betrayal. I grabbed the box from the table, the weight of it now feeling heavier than ever. So, enjoy it, Barry. Enjoy what you've taken, because I'll never forgive either of you for this. Without another word, I turned and walked out of that house, the door slamming behind me like the final nail in the coffin of my past. I leaned against the kitchen counter, staring down at the box of things I had just taken from the house that used to be mine. My fingers traced the edge of an old picture frame, the one Peggy and I had placed on the mantel after our honeymoon. A few quick steps behind me, I could hear the faint hum of the air conditioning and the far-off sound of the neighbor's dog barking. It felt strange, standing here, in this space that had once been filled with life, now reduced to a sterile emptiness. Jim? I didn't turn to face her immediately. I knew what was coming, and I wasn't ready for it. Not yet. I need to say something, Peggy said softly, her voice hesitant, almost fragile. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want any more of her apologies or justifications. But as I stood there, the weight of the past pressing down on me, I couldn't stop myself from responding. Say whatever you need to say, I replied, my voice lower than I intended. But I'm not sure there's anything left for us to talk about. She hesitated, then stepped closer, but kept a careful distance. Jim, I know I hurt you, and I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But there's something I never told you. Something I should have when we were together. That stopped me. I turned to face her, the box in my hands now feeling heavier than ever. What do you mean? I asked, the anger in my chest turning to confusion. What are you talking about? Peggy's eyes flickered nervously. She looked like she was trying to find the right words, like this confession was something she'd been holding back for years. And maybe it had been. Maybe this was the last thing she felt she could say before it was too late. I wasn't the first woman he left, she whispered. It took a second for the words to sink in. My mind churned, trying to make sense of what she was saying. Who? Dave, she said. Her voice barely rose above a whisper, but the impact of the name hit me like a punch to the gut. Dave, I repeated. Who's Dave? She swallowed hard, not looking me in the eyes anymore. Before you, there was someone else. Someone I was with before you and I got serious. The world seemed to blur as the weight of her confession hit me. She had never mentioned this man, this Dave, the man she was with before me, during our entire relationship. And now, after everything, she was just casually telling me? My mind scrambled to process what she was saying. How could she hide this from me? We had been married. We had built a life together. And this man, Dave, had been part of her past. But I had never known. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. How long were you hiding this from me, Peggy? You never said a word about him, not once. She shifted uncomfortably, glancing away. I didn't want you to think I was still hung up on him. It was a long time ago, Jim. It didn't mean anything. But I could feel the truth creeping in. It did mean something. She had hidden it from me, from the man she had claimed to love. And that wasn't just a small omission. It was a betrayal. You didn't want me to think you were still hung up on him, I echoed, but you never told me about him. You just kept it from me, Peggy. And you know what? That's exactly what this whole mess has been about. Secrets. Lies. I took a breath, trying to steady myself, but the hurt was bubbling over now. All the years, the months, the times I'd trusted her, only to realize it had all been built on sand. You lied to me, Peggy. You weren't just hiding Dave. You were hiding everything. You were always dishonest, always hiding parts of your life from me. I never knew where I stood with you. Her face fell, and for the first time in this entire conversation, I saw the real regret in her eyes. But it wasn't enough. It couldn't be enough anymore. I didn't know how to tell you, Jim. I thought it would change everything, she said, her voice breaking. No, I shot back, my frustration rising. You didn't tell me because you didn't want me to know the truth. You thought if you kept enough from me, you could keep me in the dark while you did whatever you wanted. She took a step back, and for a moment, I thought she was going to say something, anything to defend herself. But nothing came. The silence between us felt thick and suffocating, and all I could hear was the sound of my own anger simmering. I wasn't ready for this conversation to end, but I had nothing left to say to her. Not anymore. Is there anything else you haven't told me, Peggy? I asked, my voice tight, almost desperate to know everything. She didn't answer. She just looked at me, her face pale, her lips trembling. It wasn't the answer I wanted, but it was the one I had come to expect. Right, I muttered, turning away from her. I thought so. I grabbed the box again, but this time it felt different. It didn't just hold my things. It held the remnants of my old life, the life I thought I had with her. It wasn't just physical items. It was everything that I had given her, all of it, now in this box, ready to be thrown away. I took one last look at Peggy, standing there, a shadow of the woman I thought I knew. Don't ever try to come back into my life again, Peggy, I said, the words bitter on my tongue. You don't get to do that. Not after everything. I didn't wait for her reply. I didn't need it. I walked out, leaving her behind in the empty house, where nothing would ever feel the same again. The air in the living room felt heavier now, thick with the tension I had been building for years. Peggy and Barry sat across from me, their eyes watching me carefully, but there was no sincerity in their gaze. Not anymore. My heart hammered as I pulled the small DVD case from my bag, the one I hadn't looked at in years. I thought you might want to see this, I said, my voice colder than I intended. But the words were out before I could stop them. Peggy's brow furrowed as I slid the disc into the player, the familiar sound of the wedding video beginning to play on the screen. I watched their expressions, how they shifted when the footage began, when Peggy's younger self appeared, radiant in her wedding gown, smiling like the world was at her feet. On the screen, there was no tension, no division. Just her, standing in front of me, saying words that made my chest ache even now. I, Peggy, take you, Jim, to be my husband. You are my soulmate, my love, My everything. Her voice rang out, clear and strong, full of promise. I paused the video, just as her smiling face froze on the screen. I turned to face Peggy and Barry, their eyes now darting between each other nervously. "Do you remember that day, Peggy? When you said that?" I asked, my tone mocking, almost cruel. She blinked, trying to maintain her composure. "Jim, please, not now. That was a long time ago. Things change." I let out a dry laugh. "Things change, huh? Well, I guess soulmate has a different meaning now, doesn't it?" Barry shifted uncomfortably beside her, but he didn't say anything. I wasn't done. Not yet. I hit play again, and the video continued. The vows, the promises, everything she had once told me, the forever that we had shared, now reduced to a mere relic of the past. I let the words play through, the ones that once meant everything to me. "I vow to be your partner in all things forever," she had said, her voice shaky but firm. My eyes never left Peggy's face as the video played. The contrast between the woman she had promised to be and the woman sitting in front of me now was almost unbearable. How could she sit there with Barry and pretend nothing had changed? How could she act like everything she said to me had been real? The video ended, and the silence that followed felt deafening. I could hear my heart pounding in my chest, the rage bubbling back up to the surface. "Do you really think that was just a lie, Peggy? Was it all just part of the act? You promised me forever, and now you're sitting here, telling me I don't fit your vibe anymore." My voice was shaking, but not with emotion. No, it was the anger, raw and cutting. "And this guy," I pointed to Barry, "he's the one who gets to sit in the seat I used to occupy. You're still saying all the right things, pretending it's okay, but you both know it's not." Barry opened his mouth, but I wasn't going to let him speak. "Not yet. I watched you destroy everything, Peggy. And then you just moved on like it was nothing. I was your husband, your partner. And now you've got him," I said, my words venomous, every one of them aimed at both of them. "How could you do that? How could you turn all that into something so cheap?" She reached for Barry's hand, but I saw the hesitation in her touch. Maybe it was guilt, maybe it was doubt, but it didn't matter anymore. "I didn't mean for it to be like this," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, her eyes avoiding mine. "Jim, it's not that simple." "It never is it?" I snapped. "You never meant for it to happen, but it did. And now look at you, sitting here with him, trying to pretend it's something real." Barry's face darkened, and he stood up, hands raised in defense. "Jim, you don't know what we've been through. You don't understand." I shot him a hard look, cutting him off. "No, I don't understand. Because the man I thought I knew, the man who was my brother in arms, wouldn't have done this. He wouldn't have taken what wasn't his, wouldn't have destroyed a family, but you did. And now you want me to believe it's all fine?" Barry's face shifted, and for a moment, he looked like he wanted to apologize, but the words never came. He just stood there, caught between Peggy and me. "I thought we were brothers, Barry," I said, my voice low, bitter. "You and me, we served together, watched each other's backs. But when it came down to it, you stabbed me in mine." His jaw tightened. "I didn't mean for it to happen like that," he said again, but it was too late for excuses. "You're right," I said, turning away. "It wasn't supposed to be like this, but you made it this way. All of you. And now I'm done." I grabbed the DVD from the player, clutching it in my hand. "Enjoy your life, Barry. Enjoy your perfect love. You can have her. You deserve each other." With that, I walked out, leaving Peggy and Barry sitting in the mess they had created. They had nothing left to say to me, nothing they could say that would ever make this right. I stood in the living room, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on me like a suffocating cloud. Peggy and Barry were there, both sitting on the couch, their eyes darting between me and each other like they were trying to figure out how to play this out. But I wasn't here to make it easy on them. No more pretending, no more brushing things under the rug. "Let's cut the crap," I said, my voice cold, my fists still clenched by my sides. "You both sit there pretending like this is some beautiful thing, that this, whatever you two have going on is real, but it's not." Barry opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off, raising a hand to stop him. "Number, you don't get to justify this. You don't get to sit there and pretend like you're the victim in all of this, Barry. You know what you did. You were the one who came into my life, into my home, into my marriage. You knew exactly what you were doing." His face tightened. He tried to shrug it off, but I could see the cracks in his calm exterior. He was getting defensive. "You can't just blame me for everything, Jim," Barry said, his voice rising slightly. This wasn't just me. Peggy made her choices too. I turned to Peggy, my anger flaring. Oh, I know she made her choices. I watched her do it. I watched her choose you over everything we built. And you know what's the worst part? You thought you were being clever, didn't you? Like you could sneak around, like I wouldn't find out, like I wouldn't see through it. Peggy flinched, but she didn't speak. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. Her silence said more than her words ever could. Don't try to defend her, Barry, I continued, ignoring Peggy's attempts to stay silent. She's not the one I'm pissed at anymore. You know what you did. And now, you're sitting here with her, like nothing ever happened. Like all of that shit, everything you took from me, means nothing. Barry's eyes flickered with something. Guilt? Remorse? Or was it fear? He couldn't quite meet my gaze. You know, I never would have expected this from you, I said, my voice low, and I leaned in closer to him. You and I, we were like brothers. We went to hell and back together, but you turned your back on me. You turned on me in the worst way possible. You came into my house, took my life, and now you sit there acting like it doesn't matter. Barry shifted in his seat, clearly uncomfortable. He opened his mouth as if to say something, but I wasn't done yet. You lied to me, Barry. Just admit it, I spat, and his face hardened. And you know it. You've been lying to yourself, to Peggy, to me, about everything. You're just like the rest of them. You use people. You throw them away when you're done. That's who you are. That's who you'll always be. He stood up quickly, his face flushed. But I didn't back down. I stood my ground, meeting him head on. I didn't ask for any of this, Barry shouted. You think this was some kind of plan? I didn't come here to destroy your life, Jim. Yeah, well, you did, I yelled back. You didn't come here to destroy my life? Well, congratulations, you did. You ruined everything. My marriage, my trust, my whole family. You think I'm just going to sit here and act like you didn't do that? He stood there, his chest rising and falling with every breath, but his eyes, those eyes, told me everything I needed to know. He had no real answer, no defense. All he had was excuses, and I wasn't buying any of it anymore. I thought we were brothers, man, I said, my voice quieter now, but no less intense. But now I see it for what it really was. You weren't a brother. You were a fucking stranger who saw an opportunity and took it, and I was too blind to see it. I turned to Peggy, who was still sitting there, silent, looking at the floor. She was just as guilty as he was. I didn't care how she tried to play it off now. She made her choice, and now they both had to deal with it. You think I'm just going to let this go? You think I'm just going to pretend like I don't feel the betrayal in my bones? I shook my head slowly. I'm done. I'm done with you both. I took one last look at Peggy. Her eyes were red, her lips trembling. But it didn't matter. None of it mattered. Not anymore. Do me a favor, Peggy, I said, turning my back on them both. The next time you think you can fix everything by moving on to the next guy, remember this moment. Remember that you destroyed everything we had. And you know what? I hope it was worth it. I grabbed the door handle and turned it, slamming the door behind me. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Peggy and Barry sat there, both looking like they were waiting for the storm to pass. But I wasn't ready to let it go. Not yet. Not until I'd said everything I needed to say. I've done some digging, I said, my voice low, controlled. I wasn't angry now, just calm and resolute. The kind of calm that only comes from the certainty that you're about to drop a bomb. Peggy's eyes narrowed, and Barry shifted uncomfortably in his seat. They both knew I wasn't here for small talk. What are you talking about, Jim? Barry asked, but I wasn't going to answer him directly. This was between Peggy and me. I found out more about you, Barry, I said, turning to face him. A lot more. You've been playing this role of the great guy, the sensitive, understanding boyfriend. But you're nothing more than a manipulator, a user, just like I thought. Barry's face flushed, but he didn't interrupt. I could see him calculating his response, but I wasn't giving him the chance to cover up anymore. I know about the women, I continued. The ones you used, the ones you lied to, the ones you betrayed. You've got a track record, Barry. You're not just some guy who fell in love with a woman. You're the kind of guy who feeds on other people's pain. I watched as Peggy's face went from disbelief to a flicker of realization. I could see her trying to process what I was saying, but it wasn't enough. She needed to hear more. You think I didn't notice the pattern, Peggy? I said, now turning to her. You thought you were so smart, didn't you? You thought you could hide it from me, from everyone. But I know about all the women Barry's been with before you. I know about his manipulative games. The ones where he gets what he wants, then moves on to the next victim. Her eyes widened, and she opened her mouth to say something, but I held up a hand, silencing her. I warned people about him, I continued. I warned friends. I warned even people in the military. Do you know how many women he's hurt? And you... I paused, looking at Peggy with contempt. You didn't even care. You saw it, but you turned a blind eye because you were so caught up in your own selfishness. You wanted to be the victim, wanted to be loved by someone who promised you everything but gave you nothing. But I see it now. The room seemed to close in on us, the silence stretched between us, suffocating. I could feel the weight of everything I had just revealed, the truth hanging in the air, impossible to deny. Barry stood up, his hands shaking, but he didn't leave. He was cornered now. There was no easy way out. I'm not like you say I am, Jim, he muttered, his voice low. I made mistakes, yes, but... Don't, I snapped, cutting him off. Don't try to justify your actions. I know exactly what you are. And Peggy, you don't get to pretend you didn't know. You knew. You were just too scared to face the truth. So you sat there, in your little bubble, letting him tear apart everything around you. I was too blind to see it for what it was. But you... I shook my head. You knew exactly what you were doing. I could see her shaking her head now, as if trying to deny it. But the crack in her defenses was there. I had exposed it. I did love you, Peggy, I said, the words cutting through me. I loved you more than anything, but you didn't love me back. You loved what I could give you, and you loved the image of what we had. But not once did you think about me. Not once did you consider the pain you were causing. And Barry, I said, turning to him with finality, you knew exactly what you were doing. You played the part of the good guy, but all you've done is destroy everything. Barry shifted again, his face tightening as though he was trying to control the anger bubbling just under the surface. You don't get it, Jim. I wasn't trying to destroy anything. I'm sorry for how things went, but I'm not the bad guy here. Peggy and I... Stop, I cut in. You can apologize until your face turns blue, but it won't change the fact that you tore apart my life. You didn't just take my wife from me. You took my dignity, my trust, everything I believed in. And Peggy, I said, turning to her once again. You let it happen. You let this thing between you two unravel everything we had. And now you want to pretend it was all a mistake? A misstep? I saw her flinch, but she didn't respond. She couldn't. The weight of the truth was suffocating her. And for the first time, I saw her defenses crack. Not in the way I wanted, not with an apology or a plea for forgiveness, but in the brokenness in her eyes. Do you want to know the worst part? I said, voice rising again. The worst part is that I was never good enough for you. I wasn't good enough in your eyes, and now I see why. Because you were always looking for someone better, someone who could give you what you wanted without ever considering what I needed. The silence that followed felt like an eternity. They both sat there, defeated, broken in their own ways, but neither willing to admit to the full extent of their wrongdoings. But I had said everything I needed to say. With one last glance at both of them, I turned and walked out, leaving them to deal with the wreckage they had caused. The door slammed behind me, but it didn't feel like an end. It felt like a beginning. Or maybe it was just the last step in a long walk toward finally breaking free from all the lies. I stood outside in the driveway, breathing in the cold air, trying to steady my thoughts. The anger was still there, deep in my chest, but the weight of everything, of Peggy, of Barry, of the mess they had made of my life, felt lighter now. I'd said what needed to be said. I didn't need to say it again. But when I turned to walk away, I heard Peggy's voice behind me, faint, trembling, as if she had realized what was happening. Jim, please don't leave like this. I paused, but didn't turn around. I didn't need to see her face to know the desperation in her voice, the one I had heard so many times before. It used to get to me. It used to make me weak, not anymore. I can't do this anymore, Peggy, I said, my voice flat. I can't keep living in this nightmare you created. You don't get to come back into my life now, not after everything. I'm done. I heard her take a step forward, and for a moment, I thought she might try to grab my arm, to hold me back. But then I remembered she'd already had her chance. She didn't take it. Barry's voice joined hers, hesitant, like he wasn't sure where to step. Jim, please, he said, we don't have to end things this way. You don't have to walk away from everything. Everything? I turned, facing them for the first time since I left their house. What exactly do you think is left? There's nothing here for me anymore, Barry. Nothing at all. You've both taken what you wanted, and now you want to act like it wasn't all a game to you? Barry opened his mouth to respond, but I didn't give him the chance. No, I said, holding up my hand. I don't want to hear your apologies, your excuses. You took her from me, Barry. You've taken so much from me. And Peggy. You don't get to keep playing the victim when you're the one who made the choice to walk away from everything we had. You chose him. You chose him over me, and now you want me to just... What? Pretend it didn't happen? Jim, I didn't... She began, her voice shaking, but I interrupted her again. Stop. Don't even try to deny it, I said, my voice sharper now, cutting through the air between us. I've been through this too many times. I can't keep doing this. I won't. I turned back toward the car, but I couldn't get far enough away from them. My heart still ached, but it was different now. It wasn't the hurt of betrayal anymore. It was the realization that this was the last time I'd have to deal with their manipulation. I wasn't going to let them pull me back in. I heard Peggy take another step forward. Jim, please don't do this. Don't just leave without giving us a chance. I finally turned to face her, my eyes hard and unyielding. A chance, I repeated. You had your chance, Peggy. You had it for years, and you threw it away. You're still here, playing this game, but I'm done. I'm done with the lies, with the guilt trips, with you and Barry and the way you've destroyed everything. I'm not coming back. I felt my jaw tighten, the last of the words bubbling up. So, this is it. I'm done. Don't call me again. Don't come looking for me. I don't want any part of this anymore. I'm walking away from all of it. From you, from him, from everything. I could see the shock in her eyes now, the moment when the truth hit her. She hadn't expected this. She thought I would bend, that I would cave, like I always had. But not anymore. I'm sorry, Jim, she whispered, her voice breaking. I really am. I shook my head, the bitterness rising again. Sorry? Sorry doesn't change anything. Sorry doesn't take back what you did. Sorry doesn't fix the damage. It's too late for that. There's nothing you can say that will make it right. I turned back toward the car, taking one last look at the house that had once been my home, the place I thought would always be ours. But now, it was just a building, just walls that had held so many lies. I climbed into the car and started the engine. For a brief moment, I considered looking back, but I knew better. I didn't look back. It had been years since I had seen her, years since the day we had torn each other apart in that small, suffocating house. Yet, here we were, standing face to face once again. The sight of Peggy, standing there in the elegant wedding dress she had chosen for Emma's big day, sent a wave of conflicting emotions rushing through me. My heart clenched, not because I still loved her, that ship had long sailed, but because I hadn't expected the weight of the past to come rushing back quite so suddenly. I had moved on, had rebuilt my life, and yet seeing her again, with her soft smile and the elegance she always had, made the years of hurt feel closer, more immediate. I stood at the edge of the reception hall, watching as Emma danced with her new husband, and then Peggy's eyes met mine across the room. She paused for a moment, as though trying to decide what to do, and then made her way toward me. I didn't move. There was no need to run away to make this more dramatic than it needed to be. This moment, this conversation, was long overdue. Jim, Peggy said, her voice hesitant as she stopped in front of me. She still had that way of saying my name, like it meant something more than just a word. It was familiar, comforting in a way I didn't expect. I looked at her, unsure of what to say. 1,000 things swirled in my mind. The hurt, the betrayal, the anger that had never fully dissipated. But I had changed. I wasn't the man I had been when we last spoke. I had a life, a peace that I had fought hard to find. Hi, Peggy, I said, keeping my tone neutral. The years between us had left me with a quiet confidence, but that didn't make facing her any easier. She glanced down at her feet, then back up at me. Her expression softened, and there was something in her eyes that made me wonder if she too had spent these years thinking about everything we had lost. I don't expect you to forgive me, she said softly, her voice carrying a hint of regret I hadn't heard from her in years. But I want you to know that I am sorry, Jim, for everything. I know I hurt you. I know I failed you. I felt a flicker of something, a spark of emotion, but I suppressed it. I wasn't here to rehash old wounds, not anymore. You don't have to apologize, Peggy, I replied, my voice calm, almost detached. I've moved on. I've found peace in my own life. I've had to. But I'm not angry anymore. She took a tentative step forward, as if unsure whether to bridge the distance between us. I don't know what happened between us, Jim. I think I was lost, caught up in things that didn't matter. I regret how things ended. I regret how I let things go. I nodded slowly, not wanting to get drawn back into the emotional turmoil we had lived through. We both made mistakes, Peggy, but I've come to realize that our mistakes were the things that led me here. I'm happy now. I've built a life that's mine, without all the baggage we left behind. Her eyes filled with unshed tears. She wiped them away quickly, but I could see how much she had carried with her, how much she had regretted. I should have fought harder for you, Jim, for us. I was selfish, I was scared, and I didn't see what was right in front of me. I'm sorry it took me this long to see it. Her words hit me in ways I hadn't expected. I didn't respond immediately, letting her confession hang in the air between us. Then, finally, I spoke. I think we both have things we regret, Peggy. But it's over now, and we can't go back. What happened between us is part of the past, and I'm okay with that. I've found my peace. She nodded, her lips trembling, but she seemed to accept what I was saying. For a moment, I saw the woman I had loved so many years ago, the one I had fought for, and a part of me softened, but only for a moment. I understand, she whispered, stepping back slightly. I just wanted you to know that I regret everything, Jim. I was wrong. I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in years. It was clear she had come to terms with her own mistakes, but I had too. The woman I once knew was gone, and the woman standing before me now was just a memory of what could have been. I appreciate that, I said, keeping my voice steady. But I'm not angry anymore. I've let it go. And I think it's time for both of us to do the same. We stood there for a moment, an understanding passing between us. It wasn't a moment of reconciliation, not exactly, but it was something close to it. Peace. Thank you, Jim, she said quietly, and I nodded. Take care of yourself, Peggy, and take care of Emma. She gave me one last look, a fleeting expression of understanding, and then she turned and walked back toward the reception. I stayed where I was, letting the finality of that moment sink in. I didn't watch her go. Instead, I turned to find my own family, my own place in this new world I had made. The past was behind me, and I was free of it. For the first time in a long while, I felt at peace.